Why don't you want buyers and sellers talking to each other during a transaction?
Well, I can go wrong. And I think we live in this world where people believe that they can just trust everyone else, and that people make deals over handshakes. And in real estate, things don't work that way. There are a lot of shady people out there, and things can go wrong. And they think, oh, I'm under contract, right? So the negotiations are over. The negotiations are far from over at that point. If the seller and buyer are talking, let's say the seller realizes, from the buyer, like, oh man, this guy really loves this house. He'd do pretty much anything to get it. And then the inspection happens, and the buyer asks for some repairs to be done, right? And the seller's like, I'm not going to do those, because he knows, hey, this buyer wants this house bad enough that he probably would still buy it even if I said no to him. And so same thing with an appraisal. Appraisal goes south, and somehow the buyer finds out that the seller has actually got this massive amount of equity in the home and can totally afford to come down on price. That puts the seller at a disadvantage. Maybe you have something break the day before closing, and the seller again knows the buyer will take the house anyways. So it sounds like the deal is over once you get under contract, but the reality is you can't trust anything until you have the closing papers in front of you and signed it, and it's just never a good idea to let these guys talk until after closing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.